Hello and welcome. We are in conversation today with Professor Aijaz Ahmad, well-known political analyst and commentator on international affairs. Our subject is going to be the administration of President Barack Obama, its promises and its performance, even though he's been in office a short while. We will be looking at the implications of the various decisions and actions of the Obama administration for the United States, for the world at large, and for India and this region in particular. Aijaz, I'd like to start by posing what seems to many people in the US today to be a relevant question, which is, what's the difference between candidate Obama and President Obama in terms of his policies and his programs?
Obama is one of the most sophisticated rhetoricians that the US politics has produced in a long time. So he could manage very well a progressive stance on a variety of issues. He knew that there's a very strong anti-war sentiment. He knew that healthcare, universal healthcare, is a very important issue in the United States. So on a number of issues, he could play the progressive, while in fact being funded by corporate America. There was a posture that this is the candidacy of which is supported by the small donor, by the masses of America, and so on and so forth. The fact of the matter is that only about 35% of his campaign finance came from small donations, which was exactly the same percentage as that of George W. Bush. Goldman Sachs gave him $900,000. Right. $35 million came from defense and finance and so on.
So is the rhetoric different from the reality?
Now the reality is that those details now have to be filled in. He can't get away from that. And above all, he actually is faced with two crises. The biggest economic crisis that the United States has faced since the early 1930s, and a comprehensive failure in the two major wars that the US undertook within the last 5 or 7 years, that's to say both in Iraq and Afghanistan, not to speak of the fact that the Palestine-Israel issue, which is very much at the heart of West Asian politics, is at a boiling point. But the main thing is about the wars and the economy.
Right. So let's look at the economy first. Soon after President Obama took over, his first issue which he confronted was, of course, the economy, the collapse of the US economy, the meltdown, and he tried to tackle that with his bailout package, the TARP program, which many critics of Obama have said didn't go as far as it should have, or didn't go as far down the progressive road as candidate Obama seemed to have promised.
You see, candidate Obama was also responding to an enormous amount of wishful thinking in the United States, which wanted to see in him a progressive alternative.
Right.
Not just better than George W. Bush, which he actually is, but something of a Franklin D. Roosevelt,
right.
FDR. So these people who are saying that he didn't go far enough are the people who thought that he would.
Right.
Now, you see, between the candidate Obama and the President Obama, there is that period of time when he has been elected on the 4th of November, but has not become president until January 20th.
Right.
Now, at that point, there are two very significant steps he took, on the issue that you have raised. First of all, he went in and advocated in favor of the measures that Bush was taking.
Right.
And secondly, he sent a message to the Democratic Party leadership in the Congress that any cut in bailouts for the banks, he will veto.
Right.
So there's this whole issue. Even the way he is presenting
Right.
the nature of the crisis is very mainstream.
Right. In fact, that's what I was going to ask. Out of $800 billion of the stimulus package that President Obama announced or wanted to push through, only about $250 billion or so were New Deal type of public spending programs. And a substantial proportion of the TARP program were tax cuts of different kinds. So was that the reality confronting candidate Obama, or was it a continuation of the bipartisan approach which Obama talked about so much during his candidacy? Which do you think really governed this, shall we say, the proportions of spending and tax cuts in the stimulus package?
You see, there is a tendency in developing in Anglo-Saxon politics, which was reflected in Blair, which was reflected in Clinton, and now above all in Obama, in which they would like to actually abolish politics. That is to say, whatever little narrow gap there used to be between Tories and Labour, or between the Republicans and the Democrats, Obama's instinct actually is to stand right in the middle of it and abolish any kind of distinction between them. So that bipartisanship that he's talking about is actually deeply ideological.
Right, that's precisely in fact what I was going to say, because Obama kept repeating the phrase that he would like to reverse what was a very ideological neoconservative past 8 years.
Yes.
But in a sense, his own response is also ideological in that it is a supposedly non-ideological stance or a pragmatic stance.
Yeah. Let's look at what the real crisis in the United States is, which he does not talk about. You know, there was this very eloquent speech that he gave a couple of days ago in the joint house of the Congress, in the joint session of the two houses of Congress. And you look at it very closely, he's talking about bad decisions, wrong choices, and so on. Fact of the matter is that what he is facing is that 13.5 million homeowners are facing closures. 8 trillion worth of wealth in the United States has been destroyed over the last 1 year.
Right.
50 million people in the United States do not have health insurance.
Right.
Wages have been stagnant since 1970. Now, this is historically a new experience for the United States. It's a country in which wages rose for 150 years.
Sure.
And now they have not for 40 years. This is the real crisis.
Right.
Whereas he is doing exactly what mainstream right-wing neoliberal people are saying, which is it's a financial crisis, it's an investor confidence crisis, you have to restore that, and so on and so forth.
So do you think there has been some departure from this early stimulus package of President Obama's to the speech that you referred to the houses, where he announced a budget, for example? Do you think there's some shift, because several commentators have pointed to what they think is in the budget a more progressive agenda than appeared from his stimulus package? There is more long-term spending, there's expenditures on health, he's indicated a cutback on military expenditures as part of the way in which he is going to raise money for these spending programs that he wants to do.
I am astounded by that interpretation. That speech actually is the first time that Obama stepped back from his consistent promise of universal health care.
Which of course many people predicted would happen. Yes.
People predicted, but now to read that very speech as something, a progressive